I'm Yashwant. So what we have here today is we'll have a short introduction on the terms which you see in every financial newspaper every morning. You come across these terms. You're able to, I'm audible, right? Yes. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give an introduction. I'm going to give an introduction to all the terms which you have you might have pondered a million times seeing in the newspaper. What's a mutual fund? How a stock market works, and a glossary of terms which you definitely need when you want to read a financial newspaper. So here I give you a brief introduction of them in this lecture, so that next time when you see a newspaper, you really understand what does it mean, rather than keep guessing what does that mean and make no sense out of it. So yes, this session we are going to bust the myths, but the myths will not be busted like taking a myth. What I'll do is we are going to take some general things like stock markets, mutual funds, foreign exchange, and other things. And what we are going to do is I'm going to explain briefly about each of them, so that you guys, while going out of this place, will at least know what each of these things means. And that's how we are going to run the myths in this lecture. So yes, let's start with a brief introduction about what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about stock markets, basics of stock markets. We'll be talking about bonds and how they are traded. We'll be even talking about basics of banking. So a lot of you guys might have read that banks make money. So let's discuss how really banks make money. We'll be even talking about mutual funds. We are going to be talking about derivatives, futures, future contracts. We'll be talking even about what a financial recession means. So the last thing was just added because that these days you might have listed in a placement scenario that people will just say you that we are going to have a recession in the next month, but half of the people don't mean what a recession means. So we're going to start this. What I'll do is I'll be explaining everything on the board, so that guys, anybody who are in the back, you can come here and see, because I think it will not be visible. It's okay. So let's first see what are stocks. So yes, let's see what are stocks. So before introducing stock, what we'll do is I'll start that we are starting with a small organization. Let's say Pizza Hut. We want to start a small pizza center, and how do we go about it using all these things like bonds, stocks, and these instruments to get some financing for our project or venture. So yes, let us assume that we are going to start a pizza center. So yes, you guys might have spent a solid time understanding about what are the possibilities, what you guys can. Obviously, you have made a startup, so you might have had a good point. Why did you start this startup? So after that, you made all your points why you want to start this startup, and now you have come to the investing part of it. You want somebody to invest money in your startup. So the thing is, you might be going to venture capitalists and a lot of the other things where you want a particular person to invest money, but at times it is not so viable such that a person himself might invest whole of the money. So what we do is, in such cases, what we are going to do is we will be clever, and what we'll do is we'll use the existing stock market system to get the financing. So we'll see how we are going to do it. So I understood we are going to use this pizza center everywhere to understand how the system works. So basically, as you can see in the slide, let's define what a stock is. So you can read in the slide, share of a stock is literally a share in ownership of the company. When you buy a share of the stock, you are entitled a small fraction of the assets of the company. So what does it really mean? So for example, now you want, let us come to a pizza center example. A pizza center wants some $1 million of funding. So what you do is, you can invest up to some, let's say 25% of this capital by yourself, and you need another 75% of the capital. You need You need to know you want the 75% of the capital from outside sources. So what you're going to do is, you're going to give this 75% of the stock to people who are called writers. What they do is, those people are the big banks which do your IPOs. So what is an IPO? What do you do is, for example, if you want to get the 75% of the money, you want to get the 75% of the stock. So what you do is, you go to a writer, he's called the stock writer. What they do is, they will write the 75% amount of the money. They'll introduce this 75% of the money is like $0.5 million. They'll introduce these many stocks into the market so that you can each stock will you can get this money in your account. So I mean to say, okay. So I'll just get back to it. So let's see what do I exactly mean by that. So okay, let's the companies. What we're doing here is, okay, let's go with the definition. Companies have two ways of raising money. One is the equity financing, where you give a stock or a share, and another is debt financing. So what here you are doing is, here you want to write stocks of the 75% of the company. What you want to do is, you want to give an equity financing of 75% of your company to the people or who are going to buy your stocks. So who are going to buy your stocks. So what you want to do is, you're going to write 70. You're going to write stocks whose values will be which will be valued at $750,000 from this, and you're going to introduce equal number of stocks which has a specific value. Like for example, you introduce each stock of value $7.5. So each stock of value $7.5, and each will you have like 100,000. You introduce 100,000 stocks, which will give you a $750,000, which will be necessary for your investment. So what here exactly you are doing is, you are taking whatever money you want. What you are doing is, you are introducing stocks, each of $7.5, and you're pushing them back. You're pushing them back into the back into the market, so that you get such money. So why you did not go to a venture capitalist? The disadvantage of borrowing money, as you have seen here, is you have to pay back the loan with interest. By selling stock, however, the company gets money with fewer strings attached, and there is no interest to pay and no requirement to even pay the money back. And even better, equity financing distributes the risk of doing business among a large pool of investors. If the company fails, the founders don't have to fund all their money. I mean to say, when you're doing this, when you're introducing a stocks, what you're doing is you're even distributing the risk of your startup among all the other people. For example, if for example you take if you have taken that amount of loan, then your assets, the loans might be bad way assets which the banks might take back when you default on your loans. So, but by doing this, by introducing stocks, what we are doing is, by introducing stocks, what you are doing is, you are just reducing the risk among all other entities. I mean to say that definitely whoever is going to buy your stock, they are going to default, but you are not going to get defaulted, because the risk is on each person. Each person who has invested in your stocks, who has bought your $7.5 of stock, then the risk will be with them. So that in this way you can run your company, you can take your corporate decisions perfectly without having a lot of problems. Yes, and normally what happens is, when you introduce a stock, when you introduce whatever money you want a certain amount of money from the people. So what you do is, whenever you want certain amount of stock, what you do is, you try to maximize the amount of stock you are going to release. For example, here you want 75% of this amount of money, so you might be going to sell a stock each of $0.75 or might be a stock of $0.0075 because while increasing the volume, what happens is the investment is for a person to invest, he has to invest less amount of money and you can get more people. You can get more people investing in your stocks, which is very beneficial for you. So now what we talk about is we'll talk about. I'll again once revise the whole thing about the stocks. What we have done so far is we have a startup called Pizza Center. What we have done, we need some X amount of money. What we are doing is we need some X amount of money to complete our startup. So what we are doing is to get this X amount of money, we are going to the people to get that amount of money. People or whatever other private organizations are there. So you go to a writer who writes these. Everybody can't write stocks. There are only specific banks who can write stocks for you. So you go to these writers, stock writers. They are going to write stocks. For example, you can't just sell the stocks by yourself. You can't go for an IPO by yourself. So you need this particular writer. So what you're doing is you're going to a writer, and he is writing that much amount of stock. He's writing that much amount of stock for you, which is introduced to the market so that those guys can buy it. So now you might have asked. So now you have sold the stock. So where are these stocks sold? Like you have written the stocks. You have went to a stock writer. You have written the stocks for this amount of money. You would have some doubts here. Yep.
Are you talking about a new IPO of a company?
Yep, I'm talking about a new IPO of a company. So you can't.
Saying about starting a new company. So how come we start we get it listed when we start a company?
Yeah, I mean to say that yes. I mean to say that when you're saying, I'm saying that your pizza center, you want to have a pizza center. So you can, what you're doing is just what you said was right. You can't list every company. So I mean to assume that our company has certain facilities, it undergoes certain conditions so that it's already listed. And by the way, at times you can even list a startup, but you need to go through all the different conditions that are responsible. So the next thing we have is so yes, we have written these amount of stocks now. So who is going to buy these stocks? Like how are these stocks going to be listed so that people like a user got listed? So how are these going to stocks be written so that people are going to buy them? So for that, what we have is we have these things called stock exchanges. So what a stock exchange is, you might have heard about BSE, you might have heard about NSE in India, and obviously you might have heard about NYSE. So these are the stock exchanges where the selling and buying of stocks are you can only buy and sell stocks in these stock exchanges. So what these stock exchanges do is it's a very complex thing. For example, you have NASDAQ, where we have a NASDAQ, where NASDAQ it has a lot of stock brokers sitting there. You have a whole instrumentation where you are able to see. Obviously, NASDAQ will help you do this. For example, you buy and sell a stock. It has a whole system where you can see a real-time pricing of the stock. The price is going up and down. So that's what a stock exchange will do. Stock exchange will help your startup to sell its stocks in the market. So next, so what are you getting? So what are the people getting by buying your company stock? So what are people getting by buying company stock is they'll get a specific equity. They'll get a specific equity by buying your stock. For example, he has bought one stock. So for example, if he has bought a stock of $1, then in 1 million, if your company assets is $1 million, then he will he'll be credited with that much amount of equity, which is $1. So because he invested $1, so he'll have a part of the company. He'll get a part of the company, which he'll be entitled to. So he'll get an equity, and a company will even be able to give a dividend. It's called a dividend. So what a dividend does is after every year when your company makes profit. So for example, assume that your pizza center is running very good and you have made a lot of profit. So what you do is dividend is normally it's an option on the company. It need not always be obligation. So what you do is you share your profits among the rest of the people using this dividend. For example, you might have earned $10,000. So what you will do is you will give a $0.1 dividend to everybody so that they can cherish your profits, which will improve your confidence in your company. So that once people are even confidence in your company is important, because once people are confident, then people will start investing more. So the next time you again go for an IPO, then you again get you can again get some more funds for this thing. So here you might be asking that how stock prices. So once we have sold the stock, how stock prices are going to fluctuate? Why do the stock prices fluctuate, and how will it happen? So what happens here is, obviously, according to the free market rule, when you have a fixed thing of a certain commodity, for example, you have a water which is fixed, the amount of water is fixed, and as the demand of water grows, obviously the price of it will increase. So the same thing happens. What happens is, after a certain time, because once you have come for an IPO, your company stocks are limited, and might be your company is making a lot of money, and what you're doing is, in every quarter, what you're doing, you're improving the dividend. You're giving $1 this quarter, and the next quarter you give $2. So obviously hundreds of people are interested in your company. So what they do is they calculate the risk and they'll buy your stock. They'll quote your stock at a higher price. So when they quote your stock at a higher price, what happens is, definitely when they're buying your stock at a higher price, because they're using their own calculations, what they have done is they estimated that your stock in the next year is going to give, for example, $3. So what they are going to do is they're going to calculate that, okay, how much I have to, now the current price, whatever current price of the stock is there, so they're going to calculate it, and they're going to quote a successful price, which will be above your current price, because they're expecting a lot of profits from your company, and they're going to quote it at a higher price, and they're going to buy it at a higher price, which will make your stock price increase. So the same way it's going to decrease. For example, your stock price is going to decrease when might your company has lost some of its assets. You have made too much of liabilities. Your company has taken too much of loans that normally there's something called asset by equity ratio. So this is a very important ratio which will say that, so in the particular assets of your company, how much is your equity of your company? For example, might be that for a bank, so you might have been heard about a JP Morgan having assets of 2 trillion. So yes, but that's wrong. 2 trillion is not the assets of JP Morgan, because we'll come to that. In terms of banks, the assets are defined in totally different way. Even the depositor's money is going to be counted as an asset. So in that time, but the equity of JP Morgan will be very less, because even we'll see why it happens, because in terms of banks, the assets will be very high. So the but always we have to see asset by the equity ratio, because that will be same for all the companies. So using the asset by equity ratio, you can definitely know which stock is more favorable and which stock is more useful. So the same thing here. So we are going to calculate. So using all these things, the people are going to buy and sell your stocks at different quoted prices. This is going to make your stocks plunge or get or will they improve? Yep. 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 Yep.
And yet if you have an asset equity issue, you come to know that what is the right
Yeah. Yeah. See, how it's all related, that's an nice question there. See, what happens out here is, $1 million is asset of your company. Your company is worth $1 million. I mean to say, because $258,000 you are invested in, rest of 75% you're going for a IPO. So now what is happening is, now your asset is $1 million and your equity of your company is also $1 million. I mean to say, you don't have any liability. You don't have a liability, you have not taken, you have liability, I mean the equity is $250,000. But it's a positive fraction. I mean to say that if you are going to even invest in that, even if you are going to invest in this company under another amount of money, the ratio is going to stay the same. Unlike, for example, this company has taken a bank loan or whatever, and it has assets have gone negative. So again now, it means that the bank, though the assets are $1 million, it has taken a 200,000 some amount of X bank loan, then the equity of the company is less because it has to pay the certain amount of bank something. So that's what this ratio means. From here, what I'll do is I'll even so whatever you might have heard about, whenever you might be listening to the stock markets, you always listen about the stock market indexes, which say that today Nifty is 250 points up and BSE is 250 points down. So what does exactly Nifty being 250 points up or this thing mean? So what we do is, normally what happens is a stock, you have to understand the two things. Stock price of a share of a particular company which you have invested might be increasing. Might be your company, you have invested in X company, might be the stock price of it's increasing, but you might be seeing contrary that the stock index of the whole stock market is decreasing. This is possible because of the definition of stock indexes makes it so. Because for example, the stock index, how you define a stock index is in terms of BSE, it's called Sensex 30. Whenever you heard about Sensex, it's nothing but the stock index. It's a stock market index of BSE. So what is Sensex 30 is, the Sensex 30 only it has a particular weight calculation ratio which are mathematical, but we are just interested in increase and decrease. We are not interested, so definitely you can explain that. So what does Sensex 30 do is it applies a function on the top 30 companies, the 30 companies which are there in India who are very much stable. For example, like Tata, you have Reliance, which are the highly stable companies. It's going to use those indexes, like for example, its variation in the market. For example, your Tata is going up, Reliance. So depending on these variations, this Sensex will only take care of 30 companies of the whole BSE. So whatever are listed in BSE, only 30 companies are taken care of this in the stock market index. So if your company is not the part of this Sensex, then a stock market decrease will not definitely mean that stock market index decrease will not definitely mean that the stock price of your company is decreasing. Got it? Anybody has doubt in?
It might seem like a very stupid question, but suppose I want to raise $1 million or suppose 1 lakh rupees. So how do I decide? See, I can issue 1,000 shares of rupees 100
Yep.
or 10,000 shares of rupees 10.
Yep.
By both ways, I can get
Yep.
So how do I decide?
See, yes, that's it. For example, if you see companies like Reliance, which have a share of 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees, it depends on this. For example, if you have a lot of volume, then you have to expect a lot of trading. For example, if you are going to give 1 million shares of your company of each $1, then what happens is there are a lot of fluctuations in your market because 1 million people have your shares. So there will be a lot of day trading happening in the stock market. But you don't want a lot of fluctuations. You want only 100 shares. So you want only introduce 100 shares.
If I issue 10 shares, then even a common man will be able to buy.
Yes. But at the same time, there will be a lot of trading happening in the stock market. Because that's good for you, but that's what it depends on this. For example, when lot of trading happens, it depends on that your company will be more vulnerable. For example, you have 100,000 million shares, then you have 100 shares. The decisions of your company which you're taking and the stock market, whatever your price is increasing, both will be less dependent because there are less people. While when there are more people, your company should be much more responsible. You got it? Because there is much more of day trading going on of your volume. So your company will be more and more sensitive to the trading which happens by introducing more volume.
In any stock market, right? For
Yeah.
any company, they
Yeah.
have like huge lots of shareholders.
Okay.
So like the vulnerability which you are talking about, I think it won't matter so much.
So yes, if you that's what if your company is a very good company, if you feel that you're very confident, then you can introduce a lot number of shares.
Like for example, take Reliance.
Okay.
It issues shares of rupees 1,000 or something.
Okay.
But if you take any company such as Tata, it might issue shares of rupees 100. But
Okay.
both are very well established companies. So what is the basic decision which we make? Like I want to issue rupees 100 shares or I should have rupees 1,000 shares.
That is done on a lot of factors, definitely I've understood, because one of the factors I'm saying is this because the more shares you introduce, the more sensitive your company will be to the day trading. And for Tata, it's a very big empire, so they'll definitely release much smaller shares. But for example, if you want a $1 million, it's not a big amount. So why you want to introduce $1 a million shares when you can introduce $20 of where your company will be less sensitive to the day trading. It's better for you because the small company, so you want your decision not to matter much more. You got it? Yeah, they might be profitable. But what happens is, because what happens is when the Sensex is falling, the companies are very big. So there are a lot of factors which are interrelated with each other, which will definitely create a doubt in the investor that might be the whole amount of money which is there in the stock market is decreasing. Might be the whole trend. For example, you have a Tata fall. So definitely the people will be thinking that automobile sector itself is being affected by it. So that way. So that way, people are going to get a lot of doubt in people's mind, which has led to that. Definitely, it's not it definitely means that, right? It means that when Tata is falling there, Tata is a very big company, so there are a lot of companies that are dependent on that. It means that even other companies will be affected. So that's what it means. That's what it means by the Sensex 30, and the same way you have Dow Jones Index, Dow Jones Industrial Average is used in US, and the same way you have about the Dow Jones Industrial Average that are being aware of. You can have S&P 500 and Russell 2000. There are different indexes. These are all different indexes which for example, Russell 2000 takes 2000 of small scale industries. It doesn't take only the large scale industries. So there are different indexes which you have to see while investing in a particular stock. Let's start about bonds. So bonds is a much simpler scenario. For example, what happens in bond is let's assume that instead of you giving a $1 million, instead of you giving 75% in stocks, your company plans to give in bonds. So let's see what happens if your company will give in bonds. What are bonds? So now you are giving 70% in bonds. So what are bonds exactly? Bonds are nothing but loans. But this time the loans are not given by the government, the loans are given by the individual people who are buying bonds. For example, so whatever your money was 75%, dollars, you have introduced $75,000 bonds, 10 of them. So when I'm buying one bond of this, what I'm doing is I have to pay $75,000, and what you do is every year you're going to give me a particular interest. So that's what happens in a bond. So what exactly is happening is it is same as a bank. Instead of taking from a bank, what you do is you're going to sell these bonds in the stock market so that people are going to buy your debt. Instead of a particular, you're taking it from a particular bank, what you do is you sell your bonds to the people, and people are going to buy your bond, giving you a certain amount of money, and every year you have to give a particular interest rate. I'll say how this interest rate varies. Every year you have to give a particular interest rate, and every year you have to give a particular interest rate. What happens is each bond will have a maturity. That after a certain time you have to the bond should be sold back to the company's entities. That's what happens in the loan, right? Like you have a 10-year plan loan, and what you do is after 10 years you have to pay the whole principal also back after paying the interest every year. So the same thing happens in bond. So but bonds are much more bigger because bonds. So it's the same thing. So what bonds are bigger is because bonds will allow governments to get money from the people. That's the best part of bonds. For example, in whole of the system, there is no way that you can fund a government. Is there any way that you can fund a government? That you can fund a government agency? So what bonds do is bonds will even facilitate government agencies like NASA, whatever, by bringing the bonds to people. Even people can fund the agencies by buying them the bonds. I mean, for example, our government, what does it do? It sells something called treasury bills. It sells something called treasury bills, which have a very high maturity rate. What I mean to say by the maturity time is maturity is, for example, if a maturity of a bond is 10 years, it means that after 10 years the bond should be sold back. The bond should be sold back to the company issued. So treasury bonds will have a very big maturity rate. Treasury bonds will have a lot of maturity rate because it's a huge amount of money. It's a very huge amount of money, and they are profitable. Because what happens is when you're investing in stocks are very rapid. It's real time. So every time what happens is you might lose money, gain money. It's a bit of a gambling. While example bond, it's much more it's more preemptive and pre-calculated. For example, you know that every year you're going to get 2% of your interest for sure, which is quite a big amount of money. When you're investing in millions of dollars, you're going to get 2% or 3% of the interest rate. So what you do is the bonds are much more safe. The bonds are not risky. The bonds are safe, and this what happens is this will make it one of the very interesting financial assets for people to buy. So I will say that what happens here is even in bonds there are the interest rate varies normally. In bonds the interest rate varies normally. There are different types of bonds based on the interest rate. For example, there are floating rate bonds. For example, you might know that India, every time the rate of interest of the market is keeping on growing. It's going to decrease, it's going to increase. So might be that if you're going to buy a floating rate bond, what you do is your interest rate for every day is going to be paid according to the interest rate of the particular day. It's going to be variable. But for example, at the same time, might be there are fixed bonds. So there will be a fixed rate bonds where what you do is you already decide on the interest rate what you are going to buy. For example, you want to. So, anybody has doubts with bonds? Any idea?
About the interest rate.
Yep. What do you have about the interest rate?
Like, how is the interest rate decided?
See, the interest rate is basically decided in the market. For example, you are going to go for a loan. So, okay, interest rate is decided. So, the same way the bond interest rate is decided depending on a lot of factors, depending on the company's health. So, what they are planning and how much they are able to pay. And definitely, obviously, when people are buying, what do companies do? They are going to give you much more interest rate than what the market is, right? Otherwise, you are going to get the same interest by investing in a bank. So, why you are going to invest in a bond? You are going to invest in a bond because you are going to get more interest rate than whatever you are going to invest in a bank. So, normally the interest rates are much more they're much more fruitful. I mean to say it attracts you much more better. But at the same time, what happens when you're buying corporate bonds which are very risky? For example, a company might default, a company might just lose all of its assets, and what happens is, at the whole of the time, in the premature, you already paid $75,000. So after 10 years, what happens is the company itself has liquidated and it doesn't have $75,000 to pay you. Though it has paid interest, but you have lost your principal. Right? So that's what it's a much riskier financial asset to invest in. So
That is,
yeah.
you said that you want the company pays very little in what bank pays.
Yep.
So is it the company losing? Has it borrowed the same amount of money from bank?
Yep.
You have paid a less amount of money.
Yep. Yep.
But if you borrow it from people, it has paid a greater amount of money.
Yep.
So why is the company trying to lose?
See, that's a nice question. But what is happening is, for example, if you have a treasury bill for a government or a very big company which wants to make a lot of money, which wants to make a very lot of money, where what's happening is a certain bank is not ready to fund it. And because a lot of factors, for example, a corporate bond, governments give, normally people say something called gen bonds. So what gen bonds are there? They are very less credit rated. It means that it is sure to fail. Mostly it is sure to fail. But what you're going to do is sure to fail. You understood that the company is going to default. It's a very risky thing that you're going to get your principal back. But what they do is they give you very high interest rates. They give you very high interest rates. Why a company has introduced gen bond? Because their credit rating is such low that no bank is going to come to invest in it. They will not get any funding from the bank because their financial condition is suited. So it's a bit of a mismatch. It's not entirely perfect, but that's how the companies will benefit from buying the bond, and it's a risk taken by both parties.
You said that for government, like if I want to get it coming into unpaid bond, why can't the government introduce its own shares like cash?
So that's the problem. Do the shares because how can you be part of the government asset? For example, if you're buying a share, you have to be part of government asset, right? So that thing, you have to be part of government asset. Because whenever you're buying a share, you need to have the asset. You get some part of the asset. So for that, there is something called treasury bill. Treasury bills will give you the same thing as shares, but government will not be so acceptable to give all of its assets. You got it. So it will not give you a part of the asset. What it will give you is, it will give you that you're not getting a dividend every time you'll not be part of a government asset. You can't be part of a government asset. But what you will do is, you will be the government will while buying treasury bond, what happens is, you might say that then even if government will default, but what happens is government is it's a very big organization, so the probability of it getting default is very less. And there are a lot of other things which government will make sure that you get your money back.
Just last question.
Yeah.
You said that you have taken a loan from bank,
Yeah.
it will be a liability and not
Yeah.
an asset.
Yeah, I'll explain you how this is that. Yeah, I'll explain why it's called an asset. Why it's called an asset. That's for the bank. What happens exactly? Bank will just explain the next slide. It will be clear. So that's what there'll be three type of bonds. There'll be a government bond, there'll be a municipal bond, there'll be corporate bonds. What a government bond is, I said, for example, government wants to make money, so it's going to introduce bonds which will make that amount of money. And even a corporate bonds are much riskier. Corporate bonds are introduced by corporate companies. You even have municipal bonds. What municipal bonds do is municipal bonds are by a small state agencies. So for example, bonds are even introduced. For example, you want to lay a road, so you can introduce a bond for that. So small agencies, state agencies also introduce bonds. So these are one of the things. So what we do is we'll come to the banking system. So are you guys, did you get a basic idea of bonds? Are you confused anywhere? Yeah. Your bonds will be stock market, but bond will be given to the particular company. For example, bond trading, everything is in stock market. With the stock exchange, you can even buy bonds. But what happens is normally bond trading happens very less. It's a very less. For example, even bonds can be sold and bought in the secondary market. For example, you have a bond which I have introduced a bond, then bonds are transferable. Bonds are transferable. For example, you are assuming that in the next quarter the interest rate is much more. So what you can do is you can I'll buy your bond with much bigger rate than what I have given. So even bonds are transferable and they are transferred. Bonds are sold in the secondary market. Same as shares. Let's come to the banking system. So here I just explain you the basic things of banking, how banking works and stuff. That'll be fast. How a banking system works. So guys, are you confused anyway? I can just take a 5-minute recap of whatever I have taught right now. Yes. You want a 5-minute recap of? I'll just introduce very fast and a very speed. So as of now, we have come here. We have first introduced stocks. What stocks do is when you buy a stock of a particular company, what happens is you will be part of the company. For example, you have bought a $1 of a $1 million stock. Then you are assigned to this $1 of property. You have bought it. So stocks are this, and stocks are sold in stock exchanges, and stock prices fall because of the things I have said. For example, your company makes decisions depending on the corporate decisions, and the stock prices keep increasing and falling, and so that's the thing about stock. And even I explained about Sensex, what Sensex means, what really a stock market index means. Sensex is about the 30 companies which are very financially stable companies. Because in a logic it is very trivial, because for example you don't want a stock market index of a thing going, and for example you are a very small company, you don't want certain small companies where the trading is not really so confidential. For example, you are a very small company and I'm one of your competitors, so what I'll do is I'll just buy off all of your stocks and I'll just sell it at a very small price, just to inflate. I can do that. So that's why what you do is, that's why we are not going to take the small companies, because when you have small companies, a person can bankrupt your company and just going to sell, I'm going to buy off all of your stock, I'm going to sell it at $0.1. I'm doing this just because I want to create a loss rate. So that's why we normally don't take, in the Sensex, when you're talking about the stock market, you don't take them into consideration. And when I come to bonds, bonds is nothing but bonds is just, you are buying loans from the people. You're just buying loans from the people. That's what a bond means. The bond just means that you're just buying loans from the people instead of taking from the bank. And bonds come with their own things. You have I'll give you the proper terms. You have a coupon rate of the bond. You have a maturity time of the bond. And you have maturity time of the bond. And you have a rate of interest of a bond. So what this will be, the coupon rate, for example, this will be the amount of the money that a single bond will cost you $75,000, and this will be the interest, this will be the time after which you'll get back your money, you'll get back your $75,000, because this is nothing but you have given the loan, and after certain time the company will pay back to you. That's what it means. And what is rate of interest? Rate of interest normally varies with a lot of factors. It depends on the company totally. That rate of interest might be fixed, it might be floating rate. For example, the rate of interest might increase, and that's also you have understood the bond basic things, how bonds are understood. So the same thing after that, the bonds are treated, the bonds about treasury bonds and how different companies. Right. So you're saying your stop price decrease. Okay. So it just means that just can you repeat? lesser rate, right? You sold it at $0.1, right? You bought it at a higher rate and sold it at a lesser rate. That's what you're saying. You are just saying that you bought it at a higher rate and sold it at a lesser rate. What? Yeah, definitely. Because, for example, your company will be in the stock market for a long time. Your stock market will be in the company for a long time. For example, the stock price of the company will be affected only when you will go for the next IPO. Always, a company will be keeping on introducing new stocks. So that's how it affects. What happens is when your company's stock price decreases, it just means that your company is falling ill. It's not performing well. So the next time you come for an IPO, what happens is nobody will invest in your stock. Nobody will buy it. So basically, I'll just explain very fast about how a banking system works. So it's very simple. I'll go through the banking system very fast. You guys all might have a doubt. What does an RBI do in India? So everybody might have known what RBI does. So what I'll start with the basic banking. So what you guys know what the bank is, right? You might be thinking the bank is just a checker of your account. So what does it do is you invest money, you deposit money in the bank, then bank gives you a particular interest and it uses your money for some other purpose. That's what a bank does. That's what it is. So for example, this is what a bank does. What you have thought is right. So, but what happens is the system of the bank is not simple. For example, here हो सकता है कि you have invested some, everybody has taken some money, everybody has invested in the bank, and the bank has made its investment in a very high risk investment. I mean to say it has lost all of its money. It has taken your money, it has invested in some high risk investment, and the investment defaulted. So you guys have lost all your money. So this might happen. So there are hundreds of banks. So without this thing happening, how a bank system works is RBI will be at the center, which will be regulating all of these things. I'll just explain you what does it do. So what RBI does, what a normal system works is, your bank, people will invest money in your bank. So what you do is, you have to keep a certain amount of money, which is called a CRR ratio, which is called a cash reserve ratio, with the RBI. So what you are the following. Okay. So what it should do is it should take a particular amount of money, which is called the CRR ratio, and it has to invest. It has to keep in the RBI cash vault. So for example, somebody has invested $10 in your bank, then $1 of the amount should be deposited with the RBI. So why this is happening is, for example, you have invested $10, you have got $10 and you have kept all the $10 in buying a property. So the next time I come to your bank to take a particular amount of money, I want to take $1 out of my $10 deposit, then I will not get, because you have already invested in some property. So you can't sell the property at that time and you can get the money back. You got it? You guys got it? So that you can't do. So what that is being solved by this thing called cash reserve ratio. So every bank will give some money, which is normally a cash reserve ratio is of 9 to 10%, which is kept with the RBI. So what this amount will do is, this amount will help you in managing the daily cash needs of your bank. For example, every day you have hundreds of people coming and keeping money and taking money out of the bank. So that's what this system does. That's what this cash reserve ratio system does. What this system will ensure is, it will ensure that your bank will not default on anybody's money. This is called a run basically. What a run on a bank means is, when everybody comes to your bank and everybody wants their money back. When everybody comes to a bank and they want their money back, it's not possible for the bank to give. Because you have invested your money somewhere else, so it's not possible for the bank to give. This is called a run on the bank. And the issue of not paying a particular managing everyday needs is called solvency. So to solve this both things of solvency and run on the bank, the RBI will take care of the CRR ratio, and I'll explain you that basic. So what a bank does is there is an RBI, there is an individual bank. So what an RBI does, what it will do is each bank, for example, 3 people have invested. Let's assume 10. So what the RBI will do is it's going to keep what this bank will is going to keep $3 in the RBI. And here also $10, $10. Then the bank is again here also going to be $3 RBI. So what will RBI do? For example, your cash. For example, today for the bank, once somebody has come and the total deposit they want is $5. The total deposit they want is $5. But you just have $3 in RBI account. You don't have much more. Assume that rest of the whatever money is there are in the bank has invested in some property. So what will RBI do? How will your bank be able to pay your deposit the amount of money? Normally, always, for example, when you take an ATM, when you use an ATM card, hundreds of ATM cards are used every day. So every time the money is being taken, given, so there's a lot of complications. So how will this bank take care that every day I am going to have certain amount so that I'll give it to my deposit and the rest of the amount I'll invest in property? How does a bank understand this thing? So for that, what an RBI does is RBI keeps a market in which even the reserves are exchanged. Here I am just trying to explain what an RBI does to your economy. The only thing I am explaining is what an RBI does, why a banking system in India needs an RBI. You guys are with me, right? So why it requires that is because, for example, this might has $6. Might be a bank X has $6 in its reserve, and your bank has $3, but people are asking for $5. So what you're going to do? How you're going to get it? So what will RBI do is RBI will ask using RBI's operations, you can borrow another $2 from other banks' reserve. So that's what RBI does. RBI will make sure that using RBI operations, because every bank in India should keep the CRR ratio with RBI. Every bank in India should keep the CRR ratio with RBI. So what it will do is it will facilitate such things. It will facilitate this borrowing from one bank cash reserve to other bank cash reserve, which will help in a proper functioning of a bank system. So this is done by an RBI. So and RBI has lot of features. RBI does this. So the RBI functions, for example, this. Yes, it is the banker to the government. I'll say what does the banker to the government mean? I can explain this RR reserve ratio in detail because I think you guys you're following it. You're following what an RBI does. Basics, you're able to understand it, what an RBI does. It's not about it. Because I can explain you some more details where you will understand that government will never pay a debt. For example, a government will if your bank, if you have a bank, so what your bank has done is your bank has paid to the government. A government has given a contract to some X person, and what that X person has come, he has come and invested in your bank. That X amount of money, said that take this money from the government. Government has to give me this amount of money. Never a government will take the X amount of money. What government will do is it will credit that X into the CRR ratio in your reserve ratio, in your bank reserve. You got it? Because for example, why the system is such, because whenever you are having this small amount of money with the RBI, it is going to leave rest of the money to be invested anywhere, which will be helpful in having a very nice economy. You understand? For example, always you can't have $100 of the people in your bank only. Because it's not going to make you profit. It's not going to make the other people profit. Because you can't pay them interest. How are you going to pay them interest when you are keeping $100 in your bank always? You need to invest in some high profit things, right? You want to get some invest. You want to make some money. That's what this does. That's what this system will enable you this RBI system will enable you to get what will RBI will enable you to make very high risky investments. You're making RBI is not against you. RBI is making you to make high risk investments by what it's doing is safeguarding. It is safeguarding your bank. For example, here you don't have that $5 of cash with you. But what RBI is doing is it is providing a system where though you don't have that much of money, you go to other bank cash reserve and you borrow some amount. So that's what RBI does. RBI will help you to maintain a very nice bank ecology. So I think I'll go through this fast because I think you guys are not following, right? I think, did you guys understand how a bank system works? The basic how banks work. You're able to properly understand, right? So in the same way, what in the banks you have two type of banks you might have known. One is a commercial bank and one is an investment bank. You might have heard about a commercial bank and investment bank. So what a commercial bank does is a commercial bank will, if a person A has invested in a commercial bank, so what this bank will do is, it will take this person's A amount and it will only invest in commercial properties. It will not invest in derivatives. It will only invest in small things like it will buy a fixed amount of property, it will buy some land and some industry such that it's going to securitize your amount in a very in very low risk investments. But the same person when he is investing in an investment bank, what an investment bank, you might have been aware of Merrill Lynch or such bank. What Merrill Lynch does is it's going to take your money and it's going to invest in a very high risk investment. It's going to might be invested in a MBS or a COD. You guys can COD is another very interesting financial asset. It's called collateral obligation debt. So that is very interesting. You can go and Google it. That was the key factor which led to 2008 recession which happened in USA. So that's one of the so what these investment things do is, what these investment bankers do is they only invest in very high risk things, while your normal bank will invest in low risk things. And the thing is, that's what you do. And how banks are multiplying amount of money. How banks are keeping on multiplying money. Your money is being multiplied. Your $100 is not $100 because you can see here. So what it is happening out here is you are investing $100 to this bank. So what is happening is it is giving 10 rupees to the assume 10% CRR ratio, it is giving 10 rupees to the Reserve Bank. Then again it is lending 90 rupees to some other bank, and this is investing 9 rupees in the CRR, and this is able to invest another 81 rupees in the next 10 rupees same is going to invest 80 rupees in the next. So you can see that every time out of 100 rupees, only 10 rupees is going, while the 90 rupees is again in the market. That's what CRR is doing. In this whole process, the money is being multiplied. Right? Your 100 rupees is going through a whole flow of change, which keeps your money multiplying. Because you got it, how by the money is multiplying. You got it? Yeah? What? That's what. So what's happening is the money is always in the market. Nowhere the money is being happens with the hedge fund. There's something called hedge fund. In what hedge funds are done, the hedge funds are just like corporate investment bank, commercial investment bank. In commercial bank, what happens? Your investments are with very low risk investment. In hedge funds, in mutual funds, your investments are very small. Like you invest in the mutual fund, invest in only stock. But for example, in hedge funds, they invest in derivatives and much more riskier, which will definitely give you much more profit with the same amount of risk it's going to give you. So, what? Gold, silver, yes, there is no commodity. It's called commodity trading. Gold, silver, yes. Gold, silver. That is commodity trading again. It's called commodity trading. I'll not go into commodity trading, but I'll give you an idea of how a foreign exchange works. The same thing. How commodity trading does is there's something called swaps. What a swap will do is, for example, what you're assuming is, I'm a person A and you're a person B. What you're assuming is in the next 2 years, what you do is you want to make a business in India, but in India, what you're assuming is the rate of dollar. You have to pay in dollars, and the rate of dollar in India might be increased. For example, 51 rupees might make a dollar. But as of now, it's only 48 rupees. But might be at that time it will be different also. It might be even 53 rupees. So you are guessing it to be 51. So you come to me, I'm an authority. So we just make an agreement called swap. It's called a currency swap. Where what you're going to do is you're going to give me, you're going to say that, dude, you pay me, let's make an agreement in which I pay you some amount of money. Where even if it's going to go above $51, 51 rupees per dollar, you're going to still sell me at 51 rupees only. You got it. So in this way, the currency swap on the same way commodity trading is also done. In the same way. Yeah. Yes, definitely. They are much more higher. At the same time, you'll be having to sign an agreement in which all the risk details will be given. So it's the same way. You're going to flaunt. Yeah. The risk will be equally taken by you. But at the same time, normally when you go with Bank and Merrill Lynch, you can see a plethora of figures which says that every time they are giving you 15-20% of interest, might be they are really giving it. So it's much a safer investment in millions of dollars. So I'll explain you how foreign exchange works. So you guys might have been aware of what foreign exchange is and what exactly happens in foreign exchange. Like a person, you guys might have been aware of foreign exchange that you take today. What you do is you buy $100 by paying 5,000 rupees, and tomorrow what you do is the dollar value has increased. So you're getting 52 for the same $100. You're getting 5,200 rupees. So you sell it with a profit of 200 rupees. So, but the same thing on the foreign exchange rate that is done on a medium scale. But I'll show you how a government regulates a foreign exchange rate. So each government should regulate a foreign exchange rate. For example, how a government will know that $1 of mine is equivalent to 55 rupees of your country. How a government knows? So that's what we'll explain. So before this, in the past there used to be something called gold standard. So what gold standard means is, for example, for a country A has introduced a paper currency of 1 unit. So this 1 unit paper currency might be $1, and a country B has introduced a paper currency of same 1 unit with $R. Then these both should have a particular amount of gold to be in their vault. So you got it. For example, $1 will give you it's approximately $1 will give you some 35 ounces of gold. So it's like $1 will give you 35 ounces of the gold in the reserve, but India is printing 1 rupee while giving only 1 ounce India is printing 1 rupee while keeping only 1 ounce of gold in its vault. While US is printing $1 while keeping 35 ounces of gold in its vault. So what's the rate? It is just $1 is for 35 rupees, right? You got it. You got this thing. Clear? Yep. This has what? They keep it in the vault. Yeah. This happened in 1970. That's what I'm saying. This used to be the gold standard. So this is called the gold standard because it has reached in the 1970s. After this, what happened is people have come to know that this is not the real way of printing money, because you can print very less money because gold is a limited resource by a country. So it means that the country which has the biggest amount of gold might print more money, but so that's what they have stopped that. Because you might be thinking that it's a foolish thing, but it's not a foolish thing. For example, even if a country has gold, there will be a lot of internal costs which are calculated even taking the gold outside. You got it? It doesn't mean that a country, Brazil has this much amount of gold, so they can print this much amount of money because their economy can't take that much amount of gold from it. So this was a valid system, but now they have taken this valid system out, so now you don't use any gold standard anymore. So what you do is you use these two systems called what you use is you use floating exchange rate and a pegged floating exchange rate and a pegged exchange rate. I'll explain you what are both. So what floating exchange rate and pegged exchange rate means is floating exchange rate is simple. It's very simple. What it means is might be in a particular economy every day millions of transactions are only done in dollars, and only 1 million transactions are done in dollars, while only 100,000 transactions are done in rupees. You got it? So the floating rate will only depend on how many transactions are done in which country. For example, if you see the stats, the most of the transactions are done in dollar bills only. Most of the transactions are done in the dollar bill. In rupees, the least amount of the transactions are done. So hence the foreign exchange rate. You got it? Because in a particular country, then you have to pay everything in dollars, so you need more dollars, right? So more dollars means I need more demand of dollars. So more demand means obviously more than the cost. You got it? Clear to everybody? Yeah, that I'm just explaining how in a particular country the floating, this is a particular rate, so there might be some factors which will give you the correct figure. This is a proportionality I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is proportional to the demand. But there may be some factors which will, the correct calculation of factor will give the exact value. You got it? I'm just saying the proportionality, I'm not saying the constant value also that you can calculate the exact figure. I'm not saying that. Yeah, that just means that in India at that particular time, but in fact India doesn't only use floating rate system. I'll just go to next thing called peg rate system. There's two things even called peg rate system. So in floating rate system, India even will use, India is a hybrid of both. All the countries will use a hybrid of both. It uses a floating rate system as well as a peg rate system. I'll give you that, but what you said was right. So it means that at the particular time, I don't need so many dollars so that I need to make my I need to pay my foreign bill. At this time, today I need to pay $100,000 of foreign bill today's deadline. But tomorrow I just need to pay $900,000. That's what it means. So it just depends on the current, that's what a floating rate system means. And the next system is a peg rate system. So what a peg rate system does is, it's a fixed system. What happens in a peg rate system is a fixed rate system. So what it will do is, what the government will do is, it will particularly try to keep your currency value at a particular value for all time. It always wants $1 to be 54 rupees only. It doesn't want $1 to be 55 next day, $1 to be 52 next day. It will try to maintain $1 to be 55, 52 only for the all time. So this is one of the systems. But for this system, it is good because a government can adopt the system because, for example, all of your country companies are outsourced by a foreign national. So might be that every time what you're doing is you're getting all your payments of your company. US has outsourced all of your industry. So every time you're getting all of your payments in dollars only. You're getting all of your payments in dollars only. So you don't know a lot of fluctuation in dollars. Your company, a lot of foreign companies, what they have done, they have outsourced your product. So they are going to pay you in dollars only. All the foreign companies which have outsourced to you will pay you in dollars only, right? Whatever foreign companies are, they are going to pay in their currency, they are going to pay in your currency. They are going to pay which is exchange your currency. So in such amount of thing, what will India do? India will know such system. India will know that yes, India is going to get a lot of money from dollar, and what will do is it will use a peg rate system so that it will make sure that the dollar value will stay stable for a particular amount of time. Might be 10 days or 20 days. After it might change, but it makes sure that for a particular period of time it will be stable. So how does it do that? So it's a very risky thing for the Indian government to do that because India has to take that much amount of money from its foreign reserves. So it has to take that much amount from its foreign reserves. So which will mean that a lot of effort. Now I'll not explain what the foreign reserve, but explain that it's a lot of effort. Because you have to give something from your pocket. If it's increasing, Indian government has to give something from its pocket to maintain the same ratio. You got it? It should maintain the same ratio. So, for example, might be India is using a floating rate system for a euro, a floating rate system for some German currency, where you are like Germany से India का ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But it is a peg rate system for a dollar because a dollar value has a lot of interest in Indian because a lot of things are happening in dollars. So you got it? How Indian policies are like what are the two policies which a country goes for the foreign exchange? And the rest of the business is simple. You know the rest of the business. It's nothing but just take the dollar, store it, sell it, you want to get the profit. That's the scenario. But how a government will help you in doing it. It's clear because it's basic.
Small question,
Yeah. Yeah.
after you are doing it, and then you bring back,
Yeah. Yeah.
of the liability brought back to India.
Yeah.
The value of the receipt will become equivalent.
Okay.
How will that happen? How will that happen?
Might be Indian money in foreign reserves will increase. It might be that India, because India has to take money from its foreign reserves, so might be our foreign reserves are being increased. Here, it's obvious, its worth of a rupee is still 1 rupee. But it might be that India will take all of the money and keep it in the foreign reserves instead of pumping it into direct economy. If it were pumped into the economy, it will be 1 rupee only. And it will cause inflation. Government will keep that money with itself, right? It only keep that money with itself. So, and the currency value will be even dependent on something called PPPP. It's called purchasing power parity. So, you guys have heard. India is 4:1 purchasing power parity. It's like India is much more purchasing parity than US, the products. So, it even depends on that. It depends on your purchasing power parity of your market also. So, I'll explain you. So, I think it's a long time, so I think should I stop it or should I just give you a definition of recession? Good? You want it? Too much. Are you guys following it or otherwise should I stop it right now? Should I stop it? Or do you guys want the? So I'll very fast go through recession. I'll just give a definition and explain what are the factors of recession. I'll just explain a very brief thing, and I even wanted to explain derivatives, but derivatives is something you can learn by. It's not a big thing, but derivative trading is definitely the important thing of today's market because you might have seen a lot of derivative trading in India. In India, a lot of derivative trading happens. So I'll just give you a small introduction of derivative trading and I'll come to the recession. What derivative does is, derivatives are nothing. Derivatives are not asset-backed securities. I mean to say by that, when you're buying a derivative, when you're buying a stock, you're getting the equity of a company, you're getting some asset. But when you're buying a derivative, you don't get an asset. What you're placing is placing a bet on a particular stock. What happens is, derivatives, for example, I'll explain the swap. I'll explain the swap is a derivative. How a swap is a derivative is. What you're doing in swap is you're assuming that tomorrow the dollar value is going to be 53 rupees. Today it is 52 rupees. So you're assuming 53 rupees. So you come to me and you say that, you want to say that yes, tomorrow it's going to be 53 rupees. So I'm guessing it to 53 rupees. So what I'll do is, I'll pay you some 1 rupee per dollar and I'll buy a right where even it's going to go for 55 rupees, I have to still sell you at 53 rupees only for a small amount of payoff. It's called a payoff. You guys got it? It's a very simple idea. This, what you're doing is, it's a small bet that what you're saying is you're coming to me and saying that it's a 53, tomorrow the dollar value is going to increase. So what you're going to say is, you're going to say that, okay, let's decide on this sort of strike price that, I don't know, you're expecting it to be increased to 55 rupees, so you say, let's decide on 54 rupees. That method of, I'll give you this much of payoff. That I'll give you might be for, I'll give you this much of payoff. Might be I'll give you some 10 rupees payoff where even if it's going to increase, even if it's going to be 56 rupees, I have to sell you at 53 rupees only by taking the payoff. It's a bet, it's a small bet. You guys got the swap, what the currency swap is? You guys got it? You did not get it? It's simple, it's very simple that what a currency swap means is, for example, you are assuming a stock to go from 50 rupees to 60 rupees. So what you do is you come to me and you say that, dude, let's bet at 55 rupees. And what I do is I will, for each stock, to get this right, I'll pay you $1 extra. So if after some time it has gone to 60 rupees, what you'll do is you want to buy 100 of such stocks. So what you'll do is you'll pay me $100 because of this extra payoff, and you'll buy this stock at $55 only. So what you have done is you have just spent $650. Spend much more. Keep it 10. Let's keep it 10. So you have bought 10 shares of this. So what you're going to do is you're going to pay $550 plus $10. You're going to pay only $560 for $600. You got it? if you're going to buy the share today, you have to pay $600. But what you have done is you just paid $55. And for the bet, for each share, you have just paid $1 payoff. It is just, for 10 shares, it's $10. So $560 you have paid, and you have got a share value of $600. It's a bet. That's what derivative is. Derivative will have certain payoff and will have a certain strike price. So all the derivatives, I'm sure derivatives like stock, futures, swaps, and all of things. So the derivatives and derivative markets are very important in today because a lot of trading happens in derivatives. So yeah, I'll just go to the recession. Yes, so what a recession will be is will be following all these trends. It will be people buying less stuff, decreasing factory production, growing unemployment, slumping personal income, and unhealthy stock market. So why this thing happens is, if you see, all those factors are all interrelated. They are all interrelated. All the factors are interrelated. I mean to say that a decrease in factory production will definitely result in a slumping personal income, because the factory production decreased. So you are making less money. So your people are making less money. You got it. It's very interrelated. The same way, this whole thing, your factory production is decreasing. It even means that obviously your stock market will be unhealthy because all of your companies are decreasing. All of the companies of production are decreasing. Now, I just want you guys to know that all these are interrelated. That's all the factors are interrelated. So the only way I'll say was, this is, for example, the only way to come out of a recession, as a remedy, I'll say that the only way to come out of a recession is only to inculcate confidence in people. I mean, you need to be much more spending because a recession will come. For example, might be what has done is you are expecting too much growth rate, and what your companies have keep on producing, and suddenly you have come to know that there are no more consumers to buy your product. Itna consumers ही नहीं है, we have produced a lot of goods. So what happens is certainly one of these factors will start. Then one of these factors will start. Then what happens? The cycle. So it's going to start some other factors, and it results in recession. So, but recession is much more. I just want to give a definition of recession. So I think that's all. So that's all. I think we can stop it here. So after that.